About 6 or 7 years ago, I came across this topic, data storytelling, right? And, you know, being in the story business, I was immediately attracted to it. In fact, I had a deep interest in Edward Tufte's work on information and how you present information. And so I was immediately attracted to this. But when I went looking, I discovered that there was a lot of data, certainly a lot of visualization, but very little story, right? I thought, okay, so how could we recreate this and bring story to the front? And that's what we've done in this program. This is really about the storytelling that goes around presenting complex data and information. Now, to do that, I want you to just get a sense of our framework that we use to think about this, right? This is what guides this program. The first thing to notice is that it really starts with insight, right? You can't really tell the story of data unless you have an insight. We've just been doing some work for one of the big gaming companies in Silicon Valley, and you know, they have this meeting that happens every month. It's about a 90-minute meeting, and the analysts present lots of information about essentially what's happening in their virtual worlds, in their gaming worlds. And you know, they would stand there, actually on Zoom if you like, and just present information, like reporting information. You know, 63% happened this week, and then it went to 65, and then it was 62, and then it ended in 65. It's reporting, but there's little insight, and because there's no big insight there, there's no real strong meaning. It's hard for the decision makers to use that in a way that might change the way they work, right? So insight's the starting point. And in fact, we like to say the idea that insight's this unexpected shift to a better story, right? So your audience already have a story in their head about how things work. You're trying to help them come to a better story. Now, so how do you do that? Well, there's three things that we like to look at. First of all is that using story, you can build rapport, right? Using connection stories, just those little stories that help people understand where you're coming from, you know, who you are, what your character is like, right? Your character traits. Secondly, it's like flipping it. You've got to also know the stories in people's heads that's going to influence how they take on the information you're about to share, okay? We call this story listening. It's when you go and elicit stories from your audience. But the real area that we focus on in this program is the third, which is around just sharing the story, right? And here's the thing, we don't just give you one story pattern in data storytelling in our program. The feedback that we get from the people who've done the course is what they really appreciate is lots and lots of possibilities. People really hate to be told this is the way you do storytelling, right? And so by just giving a smorgasbord of data patterns, story patterns for data, they can pick and choose, right? And of course, it's rarely one type of story through a presentation. You're telling all sorts of different types of stories. So let me just show you in our next video what these data story patterns look like.